Thank you very much. Hello everyone, this is Rick with XYZ Modeling and Graphics, and I am coming to you with month number 11, issues 41 through 44. Wanted to thank everybody today for joining me, and a big thank you to all my subscribers out there and those of you who have recently joined. I really appreciate it, making our model building family just a little bit bigger each month, and I appreciate that. Also, I've been working on this project. It's the 3D printed R6 droid from X-Robots. So if anybody's interested in learning more about this project, go ahead and click that link. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to get started here with issue number 41. So as you've probably noticed, I'm working on a new camera angle here. I hope it's an improvement over the previous angles, and if it isn't, don't be shy. Go ahead and let me know in the comment section. But I just wanted to give you guys a different perspective here, maybe a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. So we're not doing anything new. This is all very familiar by now. We're working on the lower starboard engine, and at this moment I am putting that together. And we've done this before. It's starting off with the thrust nozzle that goes inside the cowling of this engine and sort of pressing everything into place. It's very similar to previous issues, so like I said, there's really nothing new here. I'm not using very much CA glue here. Most of these pieces come together pretty tightly, so that won't be a problem. The compression fit won't be a problem once we have everything assembled, and the cowling will hold most of those pieces in place and prevent them from falling apart. So yeah, this is number 3, so we've got one more engine to put together. As I've said before, it's a little bit tedious doing these things, but I guess I sort of knew what I was getting myself into when I bought this. There's obviously 4 engines and 4 wings you're going to have to deal with at some point, so maybe getting them out of the way initially is the way to go here. Just rip the band-aid off, as we say here in America. You know, speaking of that, I've looked at the analytics for this video and noticed that the majority of my viewers are coming from the UK, which is really cool. So hello to everyone in the UK. You guys are awesome. I was trying to figure out why that could be, though, and my guess is that they released this model a little bit later than they did here, so those of you who are actually subscribing to that model are probably a little bit behind, and they're just looking at my video to see what's coming up, which is fine. I used to do that too. Chris Falcon, he does pretty good model building videos, and it looks like he's doing one on this one as well. So go check out Chris Falcon. He does a really good job too, but he might be behind me right now. So you guys are coming to me to see what's coming up. So that's cool. Whatever the reason is, I appreciate your viewership, and I really appreciate those of you who have subscribed. Now, not too many viewers outside of the UK. Actually, not very many in the US either. I think I have some in the Philippines, maybe some from India, something like that. But those numbers are smaller, but still very appreciated. And hello to everyone all over the world that might be watching this stupid video that I'm putting together here. Alright, let's get started with issue 42. So So, continuing on with the assembly of the engine, the lower starboard engine. Again, this all looks very familiar. We're going to be putting together the internal combustion portion of this engine. And we'll be seeing some familiar pieces here. Nothing new. I did do a couple things differently here, though. I went ahead and left the pieces in the container instead of pulling them out and sorting them out according to the magazine. I just left them in there and picked them out as I needed them, which wasn't too difficult. I should have just started doing that from the beginning. A little word of warning here: when you do pull the cover off that clear plastic container, there is one small piece that likes to hang on to that top portion through static electricity attraction or something like that. But so when I pulled this off, I had to double check the lid, make sure nothing was attached to it. So I use CA glue to keep these detail pieces in place, mainly because once I put the internal chamber in, I couldn't just brush it from the inside. I suppose I could have started out with the detail and gone back to the brown insert, but I was following the steps of the magazine. But for the second half of this engine, you will not need to super glue the outside of the engine. You just brush the inside because the pins to hold those pieces in place are protruding enough through the back of the holes to where it will still bond to the engine casing and the detail part that you install. Wanted to also talk a little bit about the picture on the back of this issue. And here's Harrison Ford standing next to the Y-Wing prop on set. And the way people are standing there, it looks like this was actually being filmed at some point, but I don't remember this from the movie at all. Of course, I remember him being in this hangar prior to the battle and, of course, after the battle. But this is a really cool shot. It's my favorite Star Wars ship and one of my favorite characters. So here we go with issue number 43. Just gonna open up my packaging, check all my pieces out. This video, or this issue, is going to be pretty short and sweet. We're just putting together the second half of the fission chamber assembly and our favorite boat propeller piece, turbine piece. And going into this, I think we all know what to expect. The collar pieces for the fission chamber come together pretty good. The nozzle for the front of the engine fits in there nice and tight. Really no need for CA glue at this point. And I'm just dry fitting these pieces together. So, first of all, we're sticking in the pre-assembled portion of the turbine. Next, we have to insert 2 more of these blades, and we're all aware. Now, again, these studs, or the pins, let's call them, that are supposed to fit into the cone of that turbine, they don't fit. And if you push too hard, you're going to snap them off. So basically what I'm doing is cutting them halfway, the length of it in half, and then using CA glue to sort of grab it and hold it into place. So when the pins are cut in half, there's you know, ample room then to put the piece in. However, it won't stay in there with the friction or compression fit process, so the CA glue becomes necessary at that point just to hold those pieces in place. So instead of fighting it, just go ahead and trim half of those pins down and fit them in there, and you should be good to go. After that had time to dry, we're going to place that turbine portion into the second half of the fission chamber, and that wraps it up. So let's go ahead and jump into our last issue for month 11, issue number 44. And we are receiving our remaining parts to completely assemble the engine. Building another flashlight. This is our third flashlight out of 4. Pretty similar to the previous issue. We've got some greebly parts that will attach to the outside of the engine casing. And I'm just using a touch of CA glue to hold those pieces in place. And then I realize I don't need to continue to put it on the outside because there's nothing blocking the holes from the inside, and I could just brush the inside of them without risking deforming or damaging the surface of the model. Because CA glue does have a tendency to sort of dissolve the plastic material and can cause a rough finish, or in this case, if you're trying to preserve the paint job, it will eat through the paint and ruin that. So you have to be careful when you're applying CA glue to your model. And these parts go in pretty easily. I'm using my bare fingers here. To do this right, a lot of people will use gloves, like nitrile gloves or latex gloves, to prevent fingerprints from getting on the model, but I do a lot of surface preparation prior to painting anyway, so usually I won't wear gloves until I'm actually performing the painting process. So at this point I don't really need to. As long as I'm careful not leaving CA glued fingerprints all over my model that pop up in the final result, I'm okay without gloves for the time being. So here we're at the detail piece that goes inside the exhaust portion of the engine. It's a little tricky getting that in there. You have to kind of guide it in from the behind to make sure that it slides into place, because it's just big enough to fit through the hole to center itself inside that exhaust port. Here we are threading the wiring through the second half of the fission chamber, as the magazine calls it, and carefully pull that wire through and fit the reflector of the LED light into place. It all fits together very well, but be patient when you're putting together or pulling the wiring through. Just carefully guide it and make your adjustments as needed. The outer ring helps keep that assembly in place, and of course we put the exhaust port on, and that holds the entire model together, or the engine assembly together, which looks pretty good. And of course we're going to do our light test, and this is the result. And I gotta say, that is absolutely beautiful. The only thing I wish they would have given me were the flickering LEDs. The flickering LEDs are really, really nice, and I wish they would have done that instead of the solid red. Thank you everybody for joining me. We'll see you next month with month number 12.